Hi, this is Jack Downs. I want to talk a little bit about impromptu speeches and the impromptu speech that will be an extra credit option for you in our final week. And I wanted to mention that, as you know, so far in this class, we've been concentrating on extemporaneous speeches. So the idea of preparing, but speaking as if we are kind of coming up with the words at the moment. So preparation of a special kind. And preparation has been critical to combating or minimizing or working with speech anxiety. So now I'm bringing up the idea of impromptu speeches which have very little preparation at all. So does that mean in real life when we run into impromptu speaking situations, we just throw out all the stuff we've learned so far about speaking? You know, all the things you've been working on so carefully? No, not at all. So what do I mean by impromptu speaking, and what kind of impromptu speaking situations might you run into in your real life? Actually, you do run into these things all the time. Almost every day you're going to run into some kind of impromptu speaking situation. Honestly, perhaps not quite so often these days with the pandemic and all the precautions and everything like that. But imagine even in Zoom, going to a class and being called on and having to say something, having to answer a question. That's impromptu. You didn't plan it all out and prepare it and practice it, right? Imagine going to a job interview and being asked something of a surprise question. Your answer is impromptu. Imagine that you go to a meeting, a public meeting, a club meeting, for instance, and there's a discussion happening and somebody says, "What do you think about it?" You have to answer. That's impromptu, right? Then there's some impromptu speaking situations that are a bit more intense, more involved, more demanding. Maybe you go to an event that maybe your club or group is putting on, and maybe the speaker had to cancel at the last minute. So you're asked to fill in for a speaker. That's an impromptu situation. Maybe a little bit of time available for preparation, but still it's very little preparation, likely no practice, and a bit more pressure, but it's still a situation that you can still use all of our same ideas that we've worked on over and over again to help you out with. What about you go to some kind of a large gathering, maybe with a group or something. Maybe it's a meeting where your group is going to be asking for something or representing something or some cause you're involved with. And at the last minute, someone says to you, "We need somebody to speak for the group. Could you say a few words?" Wow. What about you go to some kind of a party or a celebration, like a wedding or a retirement or anniversary or something like that. And maybe you're a close friend or a family member, and someone asks you, "Could you say a few words?" Or maybe you could give a toast. Now, toasts, and in these situations, these are all special situations, and they're all special occasions are particular things, but they all involve speaking without practice and perhaps with very little preparation. And the thing that makes impromptu speaking important for me, it also means speaking from the heart. You speaking from your own experience. There's probably very little, if any, research went into this. It's stuff that you know. It's stuff you have an opinion about. It's stuff that you experienced. So that's what makes it special, and that's leaning on that stuff really makes impromptu speaking, I think, some of the most human, and it can also be some of the most interesting. And these opportunities, when they come up, be it the party or the public meeting or whatever, the difference is there might be a few of you out there who would relish those situations and will want to jump on them and grab them. I'm not one of those people, and many of you are not. Okay, so does that mean we say, no, can somebody else do it? Gee, I'd rather not. Well, maybe we'll say those things. Maybe we want to say those things. But I'm hoping that this class and other experiences that you have will give you the confidence to grab a hold of those situations and try it. The more impromptu speaking you do, the better. And it's a great skill. It really sets you apart from the crowd. It makes you stand out if you're the one who's able to do that sort of thing. And you in lots of ways, I suppose it's possible to fail doing it, but in some ways, it's almost anything you do in that situation is going to be applauded, because the audience knows it's a difficult situation too. The audience knows that you just stood up there and just did it. You weren't prepared. You had to wing it. You're going to wing it, but you're going to do it using your experience and the knowledge you've gained and the practical training you have at this point too. So in some ways you can't fail, and in fact people will really appreciate anything that you do. And I will say there is one special problem I think that impromptu speaking can bring out. We may have seen it a little bit in some of your other speeches, but is the idea of rambling. Just because you didn't have a lot of time to prepare doesn't mean you can be completely off focus and just not paying attention to what you're saying and just heading off in strange directions and so on. It can be harder to stay focused when you didn't have a whole an index card with everything all set up perfectly for you, and you hadn't practiced it 5 times. Sure, it could be harder, but we still need that focus. We still have a message. We still have an idea we're trying to communicate. So we have to beware of rambling. So let me tell you about how this is going to work for real now. You have a handout there on Moodle that I'm mandating you have to look at that before the presentation time. The presentation is the Tuesday of the final week of classes. That's May 5th, and you're going to receive a Zoom invitation from me, and you will attend that Zoom session. Now let me tell you about how this would work if we were in a real classroom together. If we were in the real classroom, I would have a bag of goodies. I've got a bag of goodies right here. Okay, this big bag of goodies, all kinds of stuff in here. What's in here? A water bottle, a teddy bear, oh gosh, what, a thing of old sparklers, some plastic flowers, on and on. All kinds of just junk, really. On and on and on. I have a bag of all kinds of stuff like that. And I would just go around the room and have you pick one. And then the next person pick one, the next person pick one, the next person pick one, right? And I'd give you all index cards. And then I would start a timer. And I'd give you 3 minutes to prepare and for your presentation. And in those 3 minutes, your goal would be, and this will happen to you now in a slightly different way in a Zoom session, your goal is going to be you're not going to talk about the thing necessarily. You're going to let the thing inspire you to find a topic. And obviously this has to be a topic that you connect with, because you're not going to have time to do a bunch of research or something. So you're inspired to find the topic, and you find the topic. Well, how's this going to work? Well, it's not necessarily easy, but if you relax and use your imagination, it'll probably come to you. For instance, let's say the thing that you picked out of the bag, or you're going to get something like that online now in an email from me, is just an old hat. Okay, an old hat is what you get. Well, I'm not going to talk about the old hat. What would I talk about? That might inspire me to talk about how clothing that you have, old clothes that you might otherwise throw out, bring back memories of past things, and how they can be as important to you as some of your most precious possessions, even though their actual value is almost worthless. And I could talk about some particular clothes that I have that I've just put on a shelf and I don't wear anymore because they just remind me, they're already worn out, but they remind me of past times, and I would perhaps review some of those. And then I'd come up with an introduction where I said, hey, a rhetorical question, right? I could try to do, in that 3 minutes, I could take a minute to try to do a quick web search to see if I could find a quotation about old clothes. And I could, but maybe I think I'd actually be better served to not spend that time and to just work on my note card. So I do a rhetorical question, and I could try to do a startling statement of some kind, and then I would get down to this is something that affects everybody. Everybody has things that are that each of us, other people would look at and think we're worthless, but to us they're critically important. And then I would go through and my main ideas, and I'm going to talk about these 3 pieces of clothing and the things that they mean to me. Okay, good. And then for my conclusion, I would just kind of review those and hope that a clincher came to me. And I would write all this stuff down on my note card as much as I can. Especially I'd focus on the introduction. What else can I say about the hat? You know what? My dad, who passed away a few years ago, wore hats. Lots of different kinds of hats. And I could talk about those. That would be another kind of presentation. What if I picked something else out? Maybe I picked out an apple or an orange or something like that. I could talk about, well, the apple, I could talk about apple picking and how I did that as a rookie reporter to go out with the Jamaican farm workers here, the temporary workers in the orchards, and pick the apples and what I learned from them and so on. So I'm not going to talk about that apple. I'm going to have the apple inspire me to something. And your inspiration and your experiences are completely different. So, okay, so that's how it would have worked in person. Now, this is how it's going to work for real in our Zoom session. What's going to happen is we're going to convene the Zoom session, and we'll have everybody get there, and to participate, as it'll explain in the handout, you have to have audio and video. Okay? I'm going to ask the TAs to come too. It's not required. If you come, you get some extra credit. If you come and you present, you get more extra credit. Look at the extra credit stuff in the handout. That'll explain it better. So when everybody's there, I'm going to have prepared a bunch of emails. Okay, the email is going to give you, I think it's going to be two images to kickstart some idea for you. I'll send all the emails out. Everyone will check their email. You'll still stay on video, and you will look those over, and then I'll give you roughly 3 minutes, maybe a little more, whatever, to pick one of those, have it inspire you as this prompt to get you going, and then you're going to start working on your speech. Now, if you have an index card, please use the index card or index cards. Maybe 2 at most is what you would need. If you don't have an index card, okay, just take a single sheet of paper. But I don't want you making notes on the screen and reading off the screen or an iPad or phone or anything like that. I really want you to have a physical piece of paper. And we're going to see you that you're working for those minutes. And then when the time's up, I'm really going to ask you to stop. Because then it's time for you to be an audience. And then we'll have an audience. And what we'll do is I will pick people at random. So there's no signing up this time to say who goes first, second, or third. I'll pick you at random. And then when I pick your name, you have to go. But remember, you don't have to do this. But I really, really hope that most of you will. Your goal is going to be, it's going to be a 2-minute presentation. So that would be 1.5 to 2.5 minutes. Really, the time is not that important, but I do want to make sure you don't start rambling and just go on and on and on, okay? You stay focused. So I might stop you if it gets excessive. And if you're a touch short, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But that's your goal, is 2 minutes. But you won't have time to practice, so. I mean, you always can practice on your own. Just try to grab something around your room and just say, oh, what do I have to do if I had a speech on this? Oh, I picked up the style book. What can I do about that? Oh, I picked up my water bottle. What can I say about that? Okay. So you'll use your time. You'll make your notes. You'll focus on especially on your introduction. That kind of makes the whole thing go in order. Then you've got your main ideas. Then maybe some clincher will come to mind. You'll write that down too, perhaps. Then you'll be picked, and you'll have to do it. And you'll do it right there to your camera. And you do it for all the rest of us. But before you do, you'll pause. You'll smile, and we will all applaud. I encourage everybody to get their hands up in front of the cameras when they applaud, because we can't really hear everybody because the way it works. And then you'll do your talk. We'll all listen quietly. At that point, especially if you're in a noisy environment at all, I would suggest you perhaps you're gonna be muting your audio because we can just see you clapping. Okay, and then you're done, and you'll pause, and we'll all clap again, and then we'll go on to the next person and the next person, just like that. And we'll hope that some of the TAs will actually jump in and do some also. So let me look at my notes now to make sure that I didn't forget something. I think that's about it. Yeah, there's no walking to the front, of course, but we will try to make sure you pause before you begin after I pick your name. And then you can go ahead and look on that handout to see what the extra credit situation is like. So that's about it. Any questions or anything ahead of time, let me know. But please put that on your schedule and watch for the invitation. And let's all try to get together for one last time.